I think when I started this project, I thought that I was going to be more interested in the instruments themselves, but I think I've become more interested in the kind of the role of the ASO in kind of the community, or in like what they're able to do as a group, rather than just like what these instruments can do. And that's been really exciting, seeing them all work together and seeing them, even just their friendships or how they communicate with each other, and the relationship between the conductor and the players, which I thought was a bit like, there's still a hierarchy, but it's not as strict as I thought it would be. Like, I kind of feel like I've seen them work together to adapt pieces that they're playing, and it's just, yeah, it's a bit more playful and less hierarchical than I thought, which has been really surprising. So at the moment, I'm really inspired by the ASO's kind of ability to, I guess, like take audience members into different worlds, and kind of with each piece it's like a different place. And so I'm thinking about making these scenes that are all in different worlds and kind of exist out of time, in the way that the ASO plays music that was written hundreds of years ago and with instruments that were from hundreds of years ago, and they kind of are in this constant dialogue with time, and I really like that kind of conversation. And so I've been making these scenes that incorporate costumes that are quite historic and have this like element of like flamboyance and pomp, because that's how I feel the ASO kind of have. Like, they have this like energy, and it's really exciting and feels a bit like, can be a bit intimidating and traditional, but actually it's really playful and fun, and it can be really exciting to watch them play. And so I'm trying to make this video that meets the excitement. I started making costumes, I think it started off as just like fabric sculptures, like textiles. Like, I was learning how to make these kind of like puff sleeves, and I was learning how to do honeycomb stitches, which like were used as like this elastic in the medieval period. And I really just started turning them into clothes when I had friends who were performing in bands and like doing experimental gigs, and so I wanted to kind of push what I was making. And then I just started making more and more, and making corsets and looking into the history of how they're made, and really enjoying putting them together as like quite sculptural objects. Like, I think it kind of mimics other ways that I've made. Like, I've done like casting and moulding, which is kind of that like flipping something inside out, and that's the same as like making something from like 2D to 3D for the body. And I've always kind of made things in relationship to the body. That's always been a really big part of my practice, and collaboration has always been something that's really excited me. And so being able to make costumes for people has just combined all these things for me. The things I've been making mostly for this work have been fabric and textiles. I've also made some whips, and like learning how to braid leather, and I have been making chainmail, which has been really fun and a kind of new skill for me. I use both the sewing machine and I do a lot of hand sewing. Materially, I've been using a lot of linens and satins, and kind of really vibrant colours will come up quite saturated on the screen, and using a lot of contrast. I've been playing with green screens and trying to play more with like video editing as a technique and as a method, rather than just making sculptures, like trying to think about how those sculptures appear on video and then how they'll appear on this huge screen that'll probably be a bit pixelated and has to be played during day and night. And so trying to think about like contrast and things that will look really clear and make sense on that screen, and things that people can just walk past and kind of take in, rather than having to sit for long periods of time, just kind of almost like these like postcards of images. So in this project I've been combining really old ways of making with really new ways of making, and thinking a lot about the history of the ASO and the history of kind of these really old instruments, like 500-year-old instruments, and also using green screen and using these new cameras. And I'm really excited by the kind of connection of both of these things. I think I find the old ways of making really accessible. Like if someone could make something in like 1500, then I can definitely make it. And it's just about finding out how it was made and what techniques were used. And I find that really exciting, kind of knowing how things were made and understanding the process in which things were made, and then replicating that and using different materials and seeing what kind of stories you can tell by doing that with these objects, and trying to tell these kind of really absurd, bizarre stories in these like small tableaus through this video by using kind of old methods with new methods, which is what the ASO does. Like they're all kind of new musicians, and like some of them are even quite young, and they're kind of engaging with this really old tradition and making it contemporary, but also like honouring the history of it, and they're kind of in this like tension, or like it's like a nice tension though, and yeah, it's really exciting.